just exciting to be on the call with you, Brian. Can you tell us a little bit more about your story, how you got saved, and then how you got involved and got started in collegiate ministry?
You bet, Paul. Thanks, Shad and Paul, for having me on. I really admire you guys and what you've done and kind of building on your shoulders in a lot of ways. So it's just really neat to be with you today. You know, a lot of people are learning and growing from these podcasts. I've listened to them and they're helping me a lot. So thanks. My story, my passion for campus ministry comes from my own background, from my story, really. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. My parents attended church and I went with them also, so I had the gospel around me, but it was never really clear for me growing up. But I remember this profound moment when I was 7 years old that happened. It was my mom was reading a children's Bible to me about the story of King Solomon, where God appeared to Solomon and said he could ask him for whatever he wanted. And I remember asking my mom, what would you ask God for if you could have anything? What would that be? And I remember my mom's response. It was so profound. She said, I wish I could know for sure that I was going to heaven when I die. And the crazy thing about that is my mom was the greatest. She was like a Mother Teresa type mom. She was so amazing. I thought, if my mom doesn't know if she's going to heaven, no one can know, and no one's going to heaven, because if my mom doesn't know if she's knowing it. So it was one of those moments. So I think it has a lot to do with why I still do what I do, clarifying the gospel. But let me fast forward to college. I remember getting to the University of Arizona, got dropped off there by my parents and moved in my dorm room. And I think it was about the second day that I was on campus. Two guys came to my dorm room and they knocked on the door and they knew my name. They go, "You're Brian Smith. You went to Brophy High School. You played varsity basketball." And I was like, these guys knew everything there was to know about me. And they were recruiting me for their fraternity, but they were the best evangelists I think I've ever met. And they weren't working for the church.
Wow.
So these guys got me to their party and I joined their fraternity. And, I put their pledge pin on and I didn't even know what the letters meant. It was like, Phi what, theta something. I don't. So fast forward about a year or two into that, my big brother in the fraternity, his name was Ian. He was an interesting guy. He was an agnostic Jewish drug dealer.
Oh, my word.
Crazy combination. And he walked into the fraternity one day with a Bible in his hand. And I was like, what is going on with Ian? I mean, a Bible in a fraternity, at least in the Southwest, is like really strange to see. So I thought it was maybe hollowed out with a gun in it or drugs or something. Came to realize he was going to a Bible study with a campus missionary. Wow. And here's the thing. I watched Ian's life change so much over the next few months. I mean, he went from a womanizer, hedonistic guy that was using drugs, doing all kinds of stuff, to someone that I'd come into the room and he'd be kneeling down by his bed praying.
Wow.
He was going to church. And the biggest impact was that he started treating women with respect. I saw this change in Ian, so I got curious. So I started coming around, and I knew a few of the Bible stuff characters, so I'd go to the Bible study with them. And I kind of try to have the answers for the campus missionary to keep them off my back and kind of fake them out. And they invited me to church one Sunday, and this was a collegiate focused church. And when I went to the church that Sunday, the pastor was talking about water baptism from Romans 6 and Colossians 2, how it's a burial of our old life. And I remember thinking, man, I need to go get baptized. I mean, I need a new life. I've kind of messed this up. And so I go up to him and I go, "Can I get baptized?" He goes, "Sure. We'll go outside and get the baptismal ready." So he said, "I just want to talk to you for a second before we baptize you." He said, "I have a question for you." He goes, "Do you know that it's illegal to bury a living person?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously, everybody knows that." He said, "When did you die?"
Oh boy, what a question. Golly.
Man, last week my girlfriend broke up with me. And, I think I prayed a few times when I felt bad. And he kind of said, "How about now?" And it was almost like God was looking through his eyes. It became really personal, really eternal moment. So I remember in February 16th, 1986, I surrendered my life to Jesus in that strip front church thing. Just this just nothing fancy, nothing. I can't remember the prayer I prayed, but there was an exchange that happened. I got baptized, came out of the water, felt 100 pounds less, which I didn't have 100 pounds to give up at that time. And literally began to, when I woke up the next day, I would see my fraternity brothers and friends with different eyes. Like, are they going to heaven? Or do they know Jesus? And it just really changed my life. So I would say that, coupled with my wife, who got reached at the University of Florida through Pastor Ken Dew, who works with Every Nation Ministries. She got reached even before me in 1985. He just walked up to her. She was smoking a cigarette on campus, sitting outside the library, and he just asked her a few questions. And that night she gave her life to Jesus in a Bible study. So we're captive of our own experience. Just a long-winded answer, but that's how we came to Christ. We're captive of that experience. And I actually believe people like Rice Brooks, when he wrote his booklet years ago called Change the Campus, Change the World. I was like, I want to be a part of that. So that's really where my passion comes from. We're not theologians here at Hope Church. I'm not a philosopher. I'm just a practitioner who wants to clarify the gospel for people on campus.
I love that. I have some background too with the fraternity life. Some guys knocked on my door at one point too, right? And they were interested in developing their intramural program. You know, we wanted to become intramural. We couldn't make it on the varsity football field, so maybe we could become intramural gods. You know. But I lived in that house for 3 years, and my life was transformed too. And that's the place that gave me a desire to reach out to fraternity guys, especially. You mentioned Phi Delta Theta, your fraternity. It's one of the top fraternities on this campus, and it was so thrilling. I think it was 3 weeks ago, maybe today, that the president bowed his head, invited Christ into his life.
That's incredible.
And it is. It's a God thing, and he just was so ready. He was so ready.
It's God.
And he'd been in a small group Bible study with me, and it was just time. And now he's growing. And anyway, I love that fraternity, and I love the guys that are in those fraternities. So anyway, I have that in common with you, brother.